Welcome to another episode of They've Got Now. I am really excited to be joined today by one of my favorite coaches coming up in the SEC, and that is Johnnie Harris, an absolute lifer in Southeast United States basketball. Johnny, first and foremost, how you doing?
I'm good, War Eagle.
Yeah, how long did it take you to get used to that? I know, like obviously, you've been around the South, you've been all over the place, but my
It
sister
did
goes to
not
U of
take
A, so
long.
like being around that, it's got to be it's an entirely different culture when you get into it for sure.
It is, but it didn't take long because everywhere you go, you're greeted.
Yeah.
If you have on something Auburn, I mean, we were overseas. It was War Eagle. We were in Vegas. I want to say my first year here. Everywhere you go is War Eagle. So it didn't take long.
Yeah, it's different. So I'm from Ohio, but my sister went down to work at University of Alabama, and like, seeing those differences kind of clash and come together is like, I mean, I grew up with the Ohio State Michigan rivalry, so that's something in its own right. But Alabama Auburn is just different. I
It
don't.
is.
There's no other way to explain it. It's just different, and you don't know it until you see it. So
No, you don't, and it's just the passion behind it. It's crazy. And I was told early on when I got here that you're either born for Alabama or you're born into Auburn, one or the other.
it
So,
absolutely seems that way.
yeah.
Well, I wanted to ask first and foremost, how's your summer been? What is this? What's this cycle been like? I can imagine pretty wild. As it seems like summer is just uh, an entirely different entity, But how has it been for you?
It's been really busy. We've been recruiting. We've been, getting our team in and working on individual workouts and just get kind of getting them acclimated, brand new team. So it's really been fun, but it's really been busy.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. I heard that you have also been cooking quite a bit this summer as well. I've had multiple people with the team tell me that I have to ask you about it.
Wow.
What is the
I
number one
cook
dish
all
that
the
everybody is
time.
asking for? Because I heard the team is very much like they're trying to get you to cook a lot.
They ask me to cook a lot. They always want the ribs. Um, they always want baked beans, but I'm gonna tell you probably the thing that's requested the most, and you're gonna be surprised, is hot water cornbread.
Okay, how does
Yeah,
this
and
work?
how does it work?
Yeah, what is hot water cornbread?
It's just it's like it's cornbread, but it's like patties. It's
Okay.
like, pancakes, but it's cornbread, and it's sweet with onions. Oh, and
It sounds
it's crispy
delightful,
on the
and I need
outside,
some. I'm requesting some too now, so this
and
sounds tremendous to me.
but it's crazy. We don't even have to have normally, you eat cornbread with, like, greens or bean. I don't care what we're having, they want hot water cornbread. It started with my staff, and now my players, Marshawn, she don't care what we're having. "Coach, you gonna make hot water cornbread?" So, yeah, that's the most requested.
I love that, that's it's the little things, right? Like,
Yeah,
not like I have enough going on recruiting and everything. Let me make the hot water cornbread for
right,
every
right.
practice too,
But
right?
I love to cook. Cooking is my love language, and I don't cook with recipes, so I create. So it's fun for me.
Yeah, I feel like people who are able to do that are honestly the best cooks, and I cannot do that, so understandable, but, um, yeah, I mean, speaking of cooking though, looking back on this last year and just what you guys have been able to do the first 3 years on the plains, um, what has have you kind of been able to sit in that a little bit and recognize what you've been able to accomplish so far? Obviously, I know there's a lot more that you guys wanna get to, but I think, especially seeing what this last year was, first time the 20 wins in half a decade and being able to really build, it's been impressive to watch, but have you kind of been able to sit in that a little bit?
Not really, because we want more.
Mhm.
I think everybody, if you think about it, my staff, they have either played for championships, won championships. So that's it's what we're used to. So I guess we've gotten used to it, building from there, building from where we left off. We were a little disappointed how we ended. We did have some injuries that, and we didn't have the depth that we needed to be able to win that first game. But we were really disappointed. So we just kind of hit the ground running to make sure that doesn't happen this upcoming year. So I haven't had a chance to, but all the people around me our fans, they have been great, and they really show their appreciation, so that's been great.
Yeah, no, I think it was cool because obviously, I mean, I've been watching you guys, but I got to see you in person when Dewana came back and got her jersey retired. And you guys played Alabama, and like getting to witness the first of all, one of the most crazy student sections I've ever been around
Oh
was
my
that game. I was
gosh.
very
Yeah.
glad to not be a Crimson Tide player in that game. I'll say that much. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think getting to witness that, getting to see the obviously the reverse Rammer Jammer at the end, like
Yes.
it's a very excited crowd. It's a lot of people who are excited about Auburn basketball, and I think getting to see that game and like
Mm.
get a feeling for like what can really happen there was very cool and gives
It
you just a real
was.
eye opening to it.
And it was an alumni game, and so our alumni was back. We had a ton of them back there, and we have had since we been here. One of the first things I did was get on a Zoom call with our former players, invited them back, and I think that first year we had, we between the players and their families, we had over 100 people. And it's been growing, and they've been coming back. So, but just to see some of them in that student section and the passion that they had, to see Dewana front and center of that, it just let, our students, our players know that it has been done here before, and we're taking that back to, to where it's been, to that winning culture. So, it was amazing. It gave me chills. I mean, I had chills when I walked out and I saw the students with the flag, because I've been asking for that. I see
Yeah.
it at men's basketball game, and I was like, I just want that student section. And when I saw that, it was I was ready.
I love that. It's awesome to see that continue to grow. But, I wanted to backtrack a little bit too, because something you hit on, like talking about, your staff having that championship mentality. And obviously you like, I mean, I have to like fan out for a second because I just love basketball, right? So I just when I have spare time, I go back and watch old ball because my family was not a big sports or basketball family growing up. So it's been like my own thing. And I'm 27, so I was like barely in high school when you guys
Mhm.
won the national title at Texas A&M. I got access to it to watch that entire run, and like that team was just like, what a team, man!
Amazing.
Like I know Sig Colson a little bit, and like couldn't
Mhm.
go back and be like, oh, you were that fast, okay? Like you didn't see
It was that
Daniel
fast.
Adams is like, I mean,
Yeah.
when you talk about like versatile, multifaceted bigs, but I think part of what's so fun is like, I mean, you can see from that team from what you invicted at MSU to over at
Yeah.
Texas and now what you're building in Auburn, you can see a lot of the blueprint for what you guys want to do. Dribble drive,
Absolutely.
playing with what you do defensively. Um, I think what's so cool is how many players have come back to work with you, and how many
Yeah.
like you talk about like a Deanna Gatson who you recruited, who you
Mhm.
coached, who is now coming
Yep.
over to Auburn. I think that says a lot about you that you have so many players who are coming back to work with you and be around you. So like when you're first building that staff out, how did that kind of come together and how's it continued to mix and match over the years?
We always talk about family, but when you have players that have, started, we had to rebuild, and that was a part of a rebuild. We had to start with that toughness, because you don't just step in. You do if you're lucky, but you don't step into a program that didn't win an SEC game the year before and get a bunch of All-Americans. You gotta go and get players that fit your system, players that are not afraid. Coach Blair used to say, "We don't have the McDonald's All-American, but we have those kids that eat McDonald's." So there it is,
That's
go
pretty
eat.
good.
So we wanted that tough, physical, aggressive player that wasn't afraid. Like, it doesn't matter who you're going up against. And so, and that's my staff. My staff was that. And so they have instant credibility because they've done it. So they can show these players, how to get it done. They can show them what family look like. Um, so that was really important to me.
Yeah.
And then, they know better than anybody that I can go out and hire my system, because they all started, like, Coach D, she started at A&M. She was there, I wanna say her freshman year, they won the Big 12. I got there her 2nd year, but, that was a program that Coach Blair and Vic went into, and they didn't win they hadn't won. And so they had to build it. So she was part of that. And every year she was there, she was able to get a ring, either Big 12 championship, regular season tournament championship, or, Elite Eight, whatever. So she was part of championships. She was she was a GA the year we won the national championship. So she know what it looked like. Katera, Savannah, they were part of our first recruiting class. So again, a team that hadn't won a game the year before, they come in, and then by the time Katera's a senior, we're playing for a national championship. And then we graduate 4 players, and the next year we're playing for a national championship. So it was, you know, they knew what it took. So I
Yeah.
was really excited about that, and I know it was something different, hiring, 3 of your former players, but, I believed in them. They believed in my vision, so and it's been really good.
Yeah.
They
And
are really good at what they do. So I didn't just hire them because, they're family and I hired them because they're good at what they do.
no, absolutely. And I think that's what stands out too, because again, like talking to people with the program, like um, they feel very empowered here. And I think that's a very special thing because the more that you're in college athletics and just athletics as a whole, like that's not common. I think it's really
Right,
hard for some people who are head coaches to empower their assistants and support staff to be their best. And
right.
so, what kind of instilled that in you, and how have you worked to make sure that that's front of mind? Because it really stands out with the program for sure.
I would say it started with Vic Schaefer because, I was hired at Texas A&M, and basically I was hired to recruit. And that was clear. I was hired to recruit, but I really wanted to do more. So I um, started doing scouting reports, on my own to the side because Vic did most of the scouting reports. So I would do a scouting report, let him look at it. He would mark it up with red, like, okay, and I was like, okay, but I stayed after it. And he continued to groom me in that area, even though I'm still doing I'm still recruiting. Because basically that's what I was hired for. But also Coach Blair, he put me in charge of inbound plays. So that gave me an opportunity to get on the floor. It took me a while to convince him that I knew what I was doing, but I was able to call the play the play that put us over the top in the national championship game. So I had to eventually earn his trust, but he put me in that situation. So I wanted to be able to do that for my staff too. I didn't just want them standing on the side in practice. I want them involved because if I'm not there, they'll be the ones running practice. And I wanted them to have that same, respect that I have when I'm out there. So like I said, they have been preparing, they've been getting better and better. They're really, really good, all of my staff, and we meet, we're all on the same page. They give me a lot of suggestions. Sometimes I go with theirs, sometimes it's mine, but when we walk out the door, we're all on the same page, and, that works for us. So,
Yeah. No,
yeah.
that's really dope because I think, having that kind of ability, like I think so often people only think of players as having potential. Like I think people
Yes.
look at a lot of coaches as finished products, like, you are what you are,
Right.
but I think it's the exact same as being a player in some ways. Like you have
Yeah,
a
and
lot of
I
room
would
to grow.
say Coach D, when she first got here, she reminded me so much of myself, just a recruiter. And the first thing I talked to her about was, "Do you wanna be a head coach?" And she was like, "No, I want no part of that." Probably one of the first practices, I put a clipboard in her hand, and I gave her the team, and I was like, "Okay, you're running plays." So she had to run plays. She was like, "You want me to do this?" "Yes." And so she did it, and then I had Katera to run the scout team, so they're going against each other, and I'm sitting there watching it, and it got better, and I continued to do it, and now, a year later, I get sick, I had to have surgery. She had to coach a game. She's coached 2 games and won both of them, as acting head coach, but she had to prepare for that. If you would have asked her to do that when she first walked in the door, it was no. Now, Coach D is ready to be a head coach. And, I don't think that would have happened unless I showed her that you can do this.
No, that's really
And
awesome
that's
because
what Big did for me.
yeah, I think, like, pouring into people like that and continue
Yeah,
obviously, you're not pushing people out the door, but, like, being
no,
able to prepare people to
yeah,
be, whatever they wanna be, I think that's
right,
really cool that you can do that and find that because it only makes you better as a staff and just in
right.
general.
Yeah, and here's the thing, I don't know that, she wants to be a head coach right now. I know that she's ready. So if she get the opportunity and she decide, "I wanna be a head coach," she's ready. So she's been put in those positions. She's really, really good, you know. Definitely not pushing her out the door because she does a lot for me and I depend on her a lot. But if she get that opportunity, I wanna make sure that she's ready for it.
Absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
kind of bouncing off that too. Um, my assumption is that you had quite a few offers before Auburn because I mean, you have one of the best assistant coaching resumes I think anybody can point to in the country. What made Auburn feel like the right place for you? What made the timing right? Because I think that's one thing I'm always so fascinated by. Like I think again, people think just like, all right, there's a job, so I have to take it, right? And I think to
Mhm.
me, in my 20s, a lot has been learning, okay, well, I need to make sure it's the right job and it's the right place for me. So what made Auburn that place for you?
So, first of all, you are correct. I did turn down a couple of jobs before. I had some opportunities, but the one thing that I've always done is focus on the job that I was in. And if there was an opportunity, I had never applied for a job, but
Hmm.
I did have some. I was offered a job right off the bat before I even interviewed, actually two of them, but I didn't feel like that was the right time or the right place for me. And with Auburn, it happened so fast, but to be honest with you, it started with a prayer because I had turned down some jobs and I'm like, what am I doing? So I prayed, I talked to God, and I told him that if a job was coming, I wanted him to send it to me and I wanted to know that it was right. I don't want to take it if it's not right, but if it is right, I want to take it. So it was the year we were in the bubble in San Antonio. We played in the Elite Eight. I had not applied for the job. I didn't apply for this job, but we had just lost to South Carolina in the Elite Eight. I was at Texas. And when I got back to the locker room, I had a message on my phone asking me if I would like to talk to the administration at Auburn. And I was like, oh, wow. Yeah, I'll talk to them. So we played the second game, which was 8 o'clock. So it's late at night. And when you lose in the bubble, you have to go home. So
Hmm.
we're in San Antonio. We got to feed our kids. We got to pack up and then we got to drive back to Austin. So we get home, it's almost 3 o'clock in the morning. And they scheduled the interview for 1 o'clock the next day. I want to say 1:30 the next day. Um, and so I was like, okay, I'll be able to do that. I have all morning. Well, when we got back, Coach Schaefer had already scheduled player meetings the next morning, and I'm the associate head coach, so I'm in all of those meetings. So I had absolutely no time to prepare for this interview. And, so, initially I'm thinking, okay, this, it'll be good experience anyway. So I'm just gonna go in, I'm gonna talk to him. I'm gonna let him know that I'm not prepared. I haven't, done all, I mean, I found out last night and we're having an interview, at 1:30, and I was literally in meetings from 8 to 1. And I wore slacks, I wore, a nice top under it and a pullover, a Texas pullover, and then after the meeting, I pulled off the pullover, and put on a jacket and jumped on the Zoom call. I think I threw a little makeup on and jumped on the Zoom call.
Hey, that's versatility,
But I tell you what, I was on the phone with Alan, Marcy, and Monique, and just from that conversation, I could tell that um, it felt like women basketball was important, and they wanted to get back to where it had been. and it had been good not so long ago. It just had fallen on some bad times. So, um, it is we just talked. We had a great conversation, and after that, somebody else came. The lady from the um from the searching firm called me back, and she was like, "Do you know you blew them away?" And I was like, "Wow." And I was just me. So that blew me away. And so, they asked me if I would go again the next morning at, the next day at 1:30. So again, we had meetings all that morning, and I did the exact same thing. Got on a Zoom call at 1:30, and I talked to a different group of people here at Auburn, the FAR, and a couple other people. And then Alan called me that night, and he said, "I need you to talk to one more person. If you talk to my president, which was Dr. Guj at the time, and if he give me the blessing, I would like to name you our next head coach." And that's literally how it happened in 3 days.
That's insane. I
It
can't even imagine. Like,
But
there's
I just felt like it was right. I
yeah,
mean, that was, that was my prayer. And I felt like it was right. I have prayed and it wasn't right. So I didn't take it. So this felt right.
that's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah,
no, having that kind of divine timing a little bit and also like yeah, again, like wild timing because that's I can't even
that was
imagine like
wild.
processing and handling those emotions too because you go from we were just competing to hopefully get to a final four and now it's well, I have to wrap my head around a new job in 48 hours. That's pretty
Yeah, and we had just signed 6 All-Americans. I was excited about, coming back to Texas. I mean, I love my job. I love working for Vic. He gave me a lot of freedom. I went out and spoke a lot for him. I went out and, I he let me have time on the court. So I ran meetings. I went to meetings with him. So when I tell you he prepared me, he did. Not that I was looking for a job, but um, the things I was doing prepared me for the job.
Yeah, it's interesting because it almost feels like in some ways like being so set where you were helped you be so prepared for the next spot.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
wanted to ask about that because you, like you mentioned, just in being rooted where you're at. I think it's easy to hear, but like not as easy to put to practice. So like, what is how have you made that something that's been such a big part of you, like being able to be rooted where you're at? And do you kind of have advice for people that are looking to do the same thing and being better
Yeah.
focused
So
on that?
one of the things that I focus on is making sure that he's okay, making sure that I'm doing what Vic needed. And so I needed to know his vision. I needed to know him, how he thinks, what he wanted. So I remember when I took this job, his daughter called me one day and she said, "My dad told me when I wake up in the morning, recruiting needed to be the first thing on my mind." She was like, was that the first thing on your mind?" And I was like, "Blair, when I was recruiting coordinator, back then, yeah." I said, "But these last 5, 6 years, no. When I wake up in the morning, I'm thinking about how can I make his job easier? What can I do to make his job easier?" And so I was taking the focus off of me. I wasn't worried about, am I going to get a look at a job or any of that. I'm looking at what can I do to help prepare this team to help, make sure that my boss can go out and play some golf and go out and hunt. I want to put myself in a position to where he trusts me to do whatever he need me to do so he can go do, you know, because coaches, it's hard to get a break. So I did realize that. Like I used to see him work and work and work and work. So how can I take some of that off of him? And that was my focus.
That's awesome. And like, how do you? So again, then like, how do you kind of stepping into that different role the last couple of years, becoming the head coach? How do you kind of ease into that and like change recognize like all right that's it's a pretty different role to be in
Mhm.
obviously like you've been a coach your whole life so it's you're prepared for it but it's your first time kind of being in that spot so how do you acclimate to that.
So for me, that's just who I am as a person.
Hmm.
That's who I was. I grew up being a powerful shadow, so to speak. Like if you're in that lead role, if I'm in the lead role, okay, I'm good. But if you're in that lead role, how can I make you better? How can I be, that shadow, but be powerful in that? Make sure that you're okay. And so that's not something that everybody has. Like that's either you're that or you're not.
Mhm.
Um, so Vic didn't have to tell me what he needed. I figured it out, by getting to know him, know how he liked to do things. When I hired my staff, yeah, I'm a first year head coach. I had to pretty much tell them what I needed. But I did hire people that knew our system. They kind of knew, what I was looking for. So it wasn't hard. I hired good people that was family. Even, with Coach Starkey, like, he's been around forever. So he know how to be in that role as well. So, it was an easy transition, but I had to let them know, what I needed. And that's just kinda how I cultivated that. And it's been really good, like, you know, the my staff, I went from being an assistant coach, associate head coach, to head coach. Now all of a sudden, they wanna do everything for me. I'm like, "Oh, y'all, I can drive a golf cart." Like, I mean, I can do this, I can do, so it's, and I think they saw me in that role, and so they wanted to do that for me. So it wasn't necessarily, um, have picking somebody that could be just like me because everybody's different,
Mhm.
but it was making sure that I had the right pieces and I let them know what I need. We meet all the time, all the time. And like I said, when we walk out of this door, we're all on the same page. And
That's pretty.
they're opinionated.
Mhm.
They were my players. So they weren't all, even though now they all think they were perfect. No, baby, you did the same thing. So let's figure it out. So, but that has been just seeing them grow, watching them, sometimes I'm sitting on the sideline and I get tears in my eyes because I remember like you were just this trifling player, a few years ago, and now all of a sudden you're shining. So it really makes me feel good to see them, shining in their roles.
That's pretty special,
Yeah.
and especially, like, you're hitting on with the communication piece, like, I think, again, like, the longer that I'm in this, the more I recognize, like, for the most part, like, every single Power 5 program has a lot of talent, has a lot of people on staff who are capable and talented, but I think it's what sets the elite programs apart is that communication and everybody working to be on the same page. What has been the biggest thing for you in your experience in cultivating that? Because I think, again, like, once you get to know stuff, like, I think it's not as common as people would think to have a group that is that locked in and on the same page together.
So we do a lot together. We we find things to celebrate. We go to my house and I'll cook or we'll go out to eat. We play cards. We have the team over a lot. They have dance off between the team and the coaches or sing out, karaoke. Usually the coaches will win the karaoke and the players will win the dance contest, but then we'll get over and we'll line dance. Like we do a lot together. So I think our players, like my coaches model the behaviors that we teach our players. Like we want to teach our players to go hard and to be tough and to do extra. Well, they see that every day when they see our coaches. They see them going hard. They see them doing extra. They see them loving each other, supporting each other. So they see what it looked like. They model those behaviors. One of the things that I do, and Big did that, is I have them to come in and sign my door every day. So every day the players come in and sign my door, and in doing so, they have to walk down the hall. It's not We're not on the basketball court. We're in our offices. So they come in, they speak. Sometimes they come in and sit down. They'll come lay on my couch. Sometimes they're being nosy. you know, just just coming in and doing what family do. And so I think that was really important because when we first started doing that, they would run up here, sign the door, and run out because they're thinking, okay, I'm gonna get in trouble. They're gonna find something to get on me about. But it wasn't about that. It was about making sure they knew we care about them, both on and off the court. So when we get after you on the court, it's not personal. When you come in tomorrow, I still got a hug for you. I got love for you. I want to make sure that we're getting it right. Like we're passionate. We're really passionate on the court. But when we're off the court, it's the most loving family environment that you're gonna find.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of that passion on the court too, like going back to that game, it stands out with your staff. Like I think when you guys won that game final buzzer, I think your staff was the loudest people in the arena, and I think like being able to see that is cool because like I mean not it don't like you said, I think it depends on every person, right? Everybody's
Mhm.
different, but like to me, like I'm the kind of person where like if I'm excited, I want my staff to be excited, right?
Oh
Like
yeah.
I want to see my
Oh yeah.
coaches be just as excited about
Mhm.
something as I am. So it's pretty cool to have that.
And they work so well together. So I think Coach Katera did that scouting report, just like
Mhm.
Savannah. Coach Savannah did the LSU scouting report, but everybody had a part in it. So it's not just one person. Like we work so well together. So Katera did that scouting report, but you had Coach Fred on the defense. You had Coach D doing some of the zone offensive parts. So everybody come together. We meet on every single scout, and we put our 2 cent in, and it could be just a little tweak that somebody notices that makes the difference in a ball game. So everybody voice is important. But when I tell you they worked so hard because it was time that we beat Alabama. So
Mhm.
they worked so hard on that scout, the LSU scout. Nobody gave us a chance. We knew the crowd was going to be here and was going to be loud. We had to convince. So the first thing I felt like, okay, we're gonna win this game. So our first meeting, I said we're gonna win this game, and now we got to figure out how. But we're
Mhm.
gonna win this game. It's gonna be packed. A lot of people are gonna come to see us, but they're coming to see LSU. But they're gonna be Auburn fans. So we gotta show them who they got. You know, they're coming to see the show, let's give them a show. And so my staff was all aboard on that. And from the time our very first practice before that LSU game, everybody, that was the intent. So we never it never entered our mind that we was gonna lose that game. And it's like that all the time, but this one was just,
It was
just
special, yeah.
just a little bit, yeah. And so we went into that game, and I want to say my staff had. I mean, we may have been up all night. I'm up here a lot, all night, but it may have been all of us. I mean, we're figuring it out how to get this done, and then we made sure our players from the very first practice they knew they were gonna win that game. Same with the Alabama game. Like, and we go to into every game like that. But we had a team. We didn't have a whole lot of depth. We were injured. So we go into games like that. But there's certain games that they're gonna really really be up for, and that was those 2 games. And I want to say they were back to back.
It
Um,
feels like it. It was close to it.
yeah. May have been a game in between, but, yeah, the passion, it started with my staff. It started with our first meeting, and it's like that all the time. Like I said, it's not one person. It's the entire staff putting their heads together and figuring it out.
Absolutely. And I think, transitioning a little bit on the court too, like you're mentioning, I think number one, part of what's really exciting about this year, like I think the SEC is just going to be incredible to watch as per usual. But like
Yeah.
I know from, I mean, my own opinion, but also from knowing some people on Alabama staff, like they expect to be, that's going to be their best team they've had in quite some time. I
Mhm.
feel the same about you guys headed into this year as well. So that's really exciting. But I think like kind of talking about your style of play, part of what is so interesting, like I think a lot of people have a tendency to look at dribble drive and like, oh well, it's simple. And I'm like, okay, but you have to do it every single time. Like
Mhm.
it's not same thing with what you guys do on defense. It is a consistency based system. Like
Right.
if you are not on top of it every single possession, you are not going to win basketball games. And
Right.
I think that's why, like, yes, the LSU game was an upset, but I think part of what was so awesome about it was like that was like what this team can become. Like
Mhm.
you can if
Absolutely.
you are sitting down on defense the way that you guys are capable of and smothering, then you're going to if a team can't beat you off the dribble, then they're not going to win that game.
Right.
If you can consistently beat somebody off the dribble like you guys did in that game, then you're going to win
Mhm.
games. And I think it's like obviously you're putting your own spin on this team and program, but it just makes me obviously like so much of watching what you guys did the last couple of decades. You know, you Vic and Gary, like that system. Just when you get it to a level of consistency, it's
Mhm.
really damn hard to play against.
It is hard to play against, and just making sure your kids understand and know the reads. And a lot of people, they try to when you talk about dribble drive, you think it's guard oriented, but I think this was the first year we had a guard to lead us in scoring, we're running dribble drive,
Hmm.
and we didn't run as much dribble drive this year. We added some motion into it, but this was the first year that I've run dribble drive that we had a guard lead us in scoring. It was always either a 4 or a 5 player. So it's not just a guard oriented offense. It's an
Hmm.
offense built for everybody, for anybody. But different players have, it's putting you in a position to do what you do best.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly, and I think that's part of what makes the transfers you guys brought in really exciting too, and who you have coming in because, like, I think I mean, there are a million players to think of in the transfer portal, but I think, like, Talia being a player coming in, I was, watching as soon as that happened, I was like, "That is, like, a perfect marriage of fit,
Yeah.
talent, and system." And I think immediately of like what that can open up for you guys. But then also a player like Deanna, who's coming out of a similar system playing at Texas, who you coached
Yes.
obviously and recruited, like you can automatically see how she fits in and makes things work and adds to that depth that you're talking about. Um, and then it's exciting too because you have like, I mean, I just keep thinking like Savannah had a lot of really exciting moments last year. Like, all right,
Mhm.
with another year under her belt, she becomes another consistent option to have who can open
Yeah.
things up on the inside. Like, there's a
Mhm.
lot to be really amped about what you guys have
Right.
coming into next year.
And I'm excited about the growth of Marshawn. Marshawn, she is a she's a kid that she's very unselfish, but she has never like just grabbed onto the responsibility of being that point guard. Well, Marshawn is yours now because Mingo's gone. All those other point guards are gone, so it is yours. So just seeing her in these last couple of weeks, because I've had some really good conversations with her, and just making sure that she is prepared and she's preparing herself. And she has been more of a leader. She has been more focused in practice than ever before. All summer long, she worked on her shot because people didn't guard her. I'm still trying to figure out how to make her shoot it in practice, but when she shoot it, it's a good shot. So I'm gonna come up with something like if you don't shoot it 10 times, the whole team gonna run or something like that. But her growth is important. Duhan and Taylor, who led us on defense. Just their passion. Getting Taylor back was big because she was the unsung hero of this team. Like she guarded everybody's best player, and a lot of times you don't notice it, but when you look in the scorebook and that player didn't get their normal double double, then that's because Taylor. Um, just getting her back was huge, and she has been, she has been part of that forefront of our defensive system. So she's showing everybody else what to do. Deanna has been a part of it. She understands what to do. So having her step in was big. Probably the biggest surprise was Talia. I didn't realize she'd take as many charges as she did. But I don't think we had one practice where she didn't stick her nose in there and take a charge. And that's just kind of different when, one of your best scorers will also, play defense. And so she's really committed on that end of the court. So that's been fun to watch. So it's you, and then you have Celia Long, athletic, who, you know, she had a lot to learn last year and she has gotten better. So I'm just excited about this team. I think we're a little bit ahead defensively than we are offensively. And I have to mention my freshmen too. My freshmen are those kids, nobody outworks them. They work so hard. So I'm really excited about what they're gonna bring to the table as well. Um, but I'm excited about our defense. I was out recruiting yesterday, so they had a practice, and I told Coach Fred, just work on defense. Let them get some shots up and work on defense. And I talked to Marshawn last night when I got back, and she was like, Coach Day, I got a lot of steals in practice. We were so lit in practice." And they went against our practice squad, and our practice squad is really good. So when they're excited about playing against the because of what they've done against the practice squad at this time of the year, that means they had a really good day. So and it was a defensive practice. So I'm really excited about what we're gonna do because I don't know if you noticed, but Connor has been putting up a lot of our defensive stats from last year
Mhm.
and from the last 3 years, how much they've gone up. So and I really feel like we're gonna be a better defensive team this year.
Which is scary to think about because you
Yeah.
guys were awesome defensively last year. And I love so many awesome tidbits to pull out of there. Number one, I love Taylor Collins. She's one of my favorite players in the country to watch because exactly like you mentioned, I think it really hit for me like midway through SEC play. I was like, obviously it's a team defense, everybody's working together, but I was like, she is like the linchpin that holds so much together because like you said, she guards the best player just about every night, but also she guards every kind of player. Like she can guard the
Yeah.
post, she can switch out on the perimeter, and it's not just like in a pinch. It's like she can do it like
One through
very
five.
well.
Yes.
And it's rare to find players that are like 6 feet plus that can move their feet like that, but also not get into foul trouble. That can play with strength. Like she's a
Now
very
she
special.
got into foul trouble.
Well, she did not yeah, but
She got
yeah,
better,
for sure,
but Lord have mercy, it's hard to but, it's hard to hold them back when they're so aggressive. It's hard to say, "Okay, don't be aggressive." We call a lot of fouls early, and I'm like, "Y'all let them play." You can fix that. It's hard to make somebody more aggressive,
for sure.
but yeah, but yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's yeah, there's always room to grow on foul trouble.
Mhm.
It's always a push-pull battle between players and coaches on that one, so I can
Yeah.
understand for sure.
And
Um,
I don't know if you saw this, but I had a, sophomore, Yakaya Milton, and she came on toward the end of the year. She was battling injuries the first part of the year last year, but she came on. She had some big games for us late, had some really big blocks, long, athletic. But she's in the gym one night, um, and she's dunking the ball. And I was like, "Yakaya," and I didn't know her dad called and told me. I was like, "Yakaya, you dunked?" She was like, "Yeah, I dunked like 5 times in a row." I said, "Well, did you get it on film?" She said, "Well, my dad made me go back and do it again and put it on film." So I was like, "Did you post it?" "Well, not yet, coach." I'm like, "Girl, do you know what this is?" I was like, "Send it to me." So I gave it to, Connor, and Connor posted it, but, I mean and she's not even doing it right. It's like once she learned how to jump, but she just didn't know she didn't have strength. The strength that she needed, and she was having issues with her knees. She was growing last year, so her knees were always bothering her. So I wasn't her to do it as much last year. But when I saw that, it's like, okay, you're dunking, maybe. Like not a lot of people can do that. So I'm excited about that one too because she has matured a lot, and I think she's really going to be able to help us.
yeah, especially like like heading into conference tournament too. She started to come on, play double digit minutes a lot to close the year.
Yeah.
Had a lot of flashes, exactly what you're talking about. That I'm hard to not be excited about. But hitting on the freshman too, like you mentioned, obviously being able to clean up Alabama and bring in some of the best players from in-state is
Mhm.
huge. But the one I have to pause on, like, so I grew up in the Midwest. I was a Pacers fan growing up. So seeing like I didn't it made me feel old knowing Marquise Daniels had a daughter that was coming back to Auburn because I looked
Right.
at him, I'm like, Daniels, Auburn. There's gotta be
Mhm.
some kind of connection here. And I found it. I'm like, yep. So that was wild to see. But she's a hell of a player too. I went and found some of her
Mhm.
film. So a lot to be excited about for sure.
Mhm. Yep, she has really been shooting the ball well. She's a big guard, so she'll play the 3 for us, and, but she stays in the gym. She stays in the gym, and, a lot of people think, "Okay, Marquise is getting her in the gym," and he does, but she's in the gym, by herself working on ball handling. I'm like, "Baby, you gonna have to get a break now." But she stays in the gym. She wants it. You can tell she wants it really bad. I think they posted it, but her number is 11 and Marquise was 3, so 11 times 3, and her mom was 33.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, so she has a little bit of, that family history is really important, so she wanna do a good job. She is actually going to rap at our, when we have tip-off at Tumors. She has some music out, and she raps, and Marquise writes a lot of her music. So I don't know if you knew that.
I did not know that.
But
That'll
and
be cool to check
she's
out.
really good. I played it for our team, and they got really hyped for her, so they're excited about it.
Well, I'm excited about that. I'm excited about Auburn's season just because I've heard so many great things, not just about basketball, but in general about your program, and obviously excited to watch you guys continue taking the steps.
Thank
Johnny, I really appreciate your time, and I'm just yeah, excited for what you guys are building.
thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks for having me, and thanks for your support.
of
We
course.
appreciate it.
Yeah, no, for everyone listening and watching, be sure to keep up with all things Auburn women's basketball. If you haven't already, be sure to go subscribe down below or wherever you're listening. And most importantly, have a great rest of your day.